that's a little bit about myself. I also have a show that that this will be featured on called Crypto Kingz.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Crypto Kingz is pretty much highlighting entrepreneurs,
Okay.
And entrepreneurs, business startups, investors. I also do crypto news. I'm not sure how familiar you are on cryptocurrency.
Yeah, I've been looking into it a little bit. I'm not the best at it, but it's on my feed, my timeline. So of course, an inquisitive mind, I'm like, okay, what is this stuff?
Right.
And so I looked a little bit into it, and it's powerful. I mean,
Yep.
look, didn't Arizona just pass legislation to accept cryptocurrency to pay off like bills and
Taxes,
Bitcoin, the taxes, right?
Yeah.
Great. So it shows. I mean, it's viable currency at this point. If a state, even though a state is far beyond as Arizona, don't celebrate Martin Luther King Day, but even if they say it's okay, then that's a move. It's a push.
Yes. I mean, the mainstream media and just the government attention that it's been getting has been giving, I guess, a more credibility aspect to the whole cryptocurrency atmosphere, this whole space.
Mm-hmm.
We are pretty much in a monetary shift. We're pretty much in a more than just a conscious shift, and the whole shift that's happening around the universe. We're also shifting monetarily too with money, because money is, they say the dollar is collapsing, and what's going to replace the dollar? Looks like we're going digital.
Right.
So, looks like we're going digital from that aspect, from looking at it from that perception. First and foremost, can you share, who you are, as far as, what's your profession, your background, a little bit of your background if you can, and where you are now? Okay.
Yeah. Well, my name is Brandon Brown. That's my government. I go by, Brandon Brown. I'll tell you a story of Brandon Brown. I'm in education. In college, I had a lot of fun. I remember Mega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, played football. I partied a lot. I ended up losing my scholarship because I got kicked out of school because I wasn't. I mean, I went in with straight A. I mean, I had like a 3.78 in high school. In my first semester, 4.0 at Davis. Yeah, so I partied a lot. But that's why I went to college. Like, full disclosure, it wasn't by mistake. Like, I went to have fun. I love my mom dearest, but it was very grown up where we grew up, and her background and her story, and her upbringing brought the changes in her life where she's like, I want to make sure my children are very regimented, So I went to community college in 9th grade. And so anyways, I went to college, have fun. But, graduating or leaving college, finally I got back into UC Davis, keynote speaker at the graduation.
Nice.
They loved the story. I got straight into education, right? So I was going into culinary school because that's what I love doing, right? Like, I'm a creative mind. So at a bakery, when I got kicked out, I had a bakery called Brown Sugar Boulevard. Nobody take that name. It's my name, like Brown Sugar Boulevard. Anyway, so I had
this was like a side gig, like something that you created on the side. Was like, man, that was your talent you were working with right then and there.
Yeah. That was my hustle, right? I mean, I hustled. I was making, at the bake sales on campus, bringing cookies, bringing brownies. I mean, it's college, in Northern California. So cookies and brownies, they were, people loved it. And so it was good times. I made some money. And then I was going to pursue that because I wanted to open my own, bakery, my own, food show. I had an idea for a Food Network show. Wow. And so going back home to Los Angeles, I went to culinary school, and I was like also substitute teaching at the time. And I realized, like, this is my passion, right? I love cooking, but I can cook and open up my own bakery at 40 years old, 45 years old. At this time in my life, as a, young 23-year-old Black man, to be in education is more impactful for my community. And so I made the choice to just forego that passion to work on my overall passion was uplifting my community and then taking care of, my people through the gifts that God gave me. And so
was there an aha moment there? Was there like a moment that made you say, yo, wait, this is something that I need to be doing instead?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. I substitute taught at this school in Compton, California. It was just one random day. And there was a student. He was, a young brother, big for his age, not just big wide, but like buff. I mean, the boy was strong. I'm like, yo, you're in 6th grade? And the teachers there, they were continuously not berating him, but, you know, talking down on him.
Right.
And about him, not necessarily to his face, but everything they say, oh man, watch out for him, man. You're going to go into the class and he's bad, you know, you should stay away, just send him to the office.
They had the whole negative connotation surrounding him just as soon as, oh, here he come.
Exactly, exactly. Which so many of us face continuously, you know? And so me going there, I had no problems with him. I approached him like I would approach any student. I was firm, but I had, you know, great conversation. I was like him in so many ways because as a kid, I was a wild child, you know?
Boy, right.
They said I had ADD. I was bored as all my mind. So I kept the class moving and going within the sub plan. I had a bunch of riddles and jokes I was telling them, and we kept moving and singing some songs. I played music that was current, but the clean version.
Right.
And I had no issues with the class. And that was what I continuously did. But this one student, after I left, I'm like, yo, there was no reason why he should not be engaged in the classroom. There's no reason why a teacher should automatically have a negative connotation for him and a negative description for him, because he's actually he's pretty chill. You just got to work with him and actually have a conversation with him. And so that's really why I realized as a Black male, I need to put more effort into this education thing. I was able to work at Wilder's, and that's really when SchoolYardRap, well, it wasn't SchoolYardRap at that time, but that's really when the foundations for this company and SchoolYardRap began. And that's when I started rhyming. And
hold up. It started then?
Yeah, that's when it started.
That's classic right there. It's like a life-changing moment on top of a life-changing skill, moment. Like, you know what I'm saying? Wow.
Yeah. I started to walk within my path. And as I'm walking within my path, things started to be more clear to me. A student, they were listening to Chief Keef, man. And, you know, disrespect to that guy, but I mean, the music, it was like that song, Step. No. That's that thing I don't like.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what do y'all listen to? Now, I'd been listening to rap. I've been stuck on my old mixtapes from college. So I'm a mixtape guy. So I've been listening to, you know, all the J. Cole mixtapes. And,
right.
You know, Kendrick, I just got put on Kendrick during that time. So I was listening to some of him. I mean, Drake, but early Drake when he was still rapping more than singing type.
Right.
So, like, I was listening to mixtapes. And so this was new to me. But as a teacher, it's important to know what the kids are listening to and what they're watching on TV. If you can't relate to the cartoons that they're watching, then you're missing out on so many conversations you really have or things that you can relate to the lesson. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. And
you be the cool teacher that knows stuff. You start to be like them. And they feel that more. And that's for any race of teachers.
Yes.
So I started to listen. I listened to the song. And I'm like, yo, kid's name is Kendall. I saw him recently at the Black College Expo. He's at Morehouse now.
Nice.
I was like, hey, Mr. Brown, yo, I really appreciate you, man. You changed. You made me want to go to college anyways. And so they're listening to the song, and he's like, yo, Mr. Brown, this is tight, huh? I said, this is trash, man. What is this crap? This is horrible. And he said, yo, I bet you can't do better. What? Bet. Challenge accepted.
Challenge accepted. Let's go.
Yeah. I was teaching about the Boston Tea Party. And so right before, we're talking about all the Stamp Act, the Quartering Act. And I turned it to Stamp Act. That's that thing I don't like. Hey. Quartering Act. That's that thing I don't like. Hey. And so it was a change. Like, as soon as I played it for them, I saw the eyes light up. Kids in the back of the class, they were like, oh, bumping their head, the quiet ones. I wrote a song on this mixtape years ago. I was like, you know, SchoolYardRap. I said once again, SchoolYardRap 4 years ago, I took a risk for my class, a new small track. I saw quiet kids bumping their heads in the back, a huge impact. Next day, they were like, can you do it again? Can you do our rap? I never knew I would catch like that or affect my class, but that's what I set out to do when I graduated college and chose this career to impart knowledge and uplift the youth. I was going to use books, not hooks. But now look, they got it.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how it started.
Wow. And you know what? Yo, that's so mind-blowing because think about this. That's the only success you need.
It's the only success you need.
Right there. When once you see that they get it just from your rapping, they get the lesson, they get the message right there in the class. The kids that were not participating, they participate in a whole nother way. That's successful. That's success. That's success in your craft. You're the most successful person in your field because you can see the impact, not how much money you made off of it. You see how much impact you make every time. Now, when we watch the video of Black Made That, and you're in front of the class with, you know, like you're teaching a class, that's real right there. That's the real you.
Yeah, that's me. That's how I started. That's what I keep doing. Like, the album's the album, but how do I promote it? I go to schools. Like, I do school performances. I do college performances, community performances, not just concerts. I do lectures where I just use the music to teach. And that's the best part. I mean, that's the purpose of the music. Ultimately, it's an album to listen to at home, but my goal is to make it a curriculum that's in school. And that's the first step. It's a musical curriculum, and the associated like worksheets, materials, database inquiry lessons, projects. Like, that's what I'm building around the music so that every teacher in every school district can have this in their classrooms.
Yes, yes. Now, when did it become that? You know, when did it become, you know, I'm going to build it, you know, to that level where it can become a curriculum? Was it after the first project or the second project?
Yeah, it was really before. Well, I did a U.S. History album, U.S. History Volume 1.
Right.
This was as I was leaving L.A. and I was about to come up to Northern California to start the school I started, Richmond Technology Academy.
Cool.
And that's really when I started to formulate the idea of SchoolYardRap as the company. It was before it was like BCB Education and like Listen and Learn. But SchoolYardRap, it's like, remember Schoolhouse Rock, Conjunction.
Yeah.
I was like, we need a new generation of that. So instead of Schoolhouse Rock, SchoolYardRap. And that's really when it started. So I'd say about 3 years ago is really when I started to conceptualize having a curriculum. And when I started to become assistant principal, got a little more money now. So I can actually, instead of using other people's beats or like some cheesy, corny beats, because that's the worst thing. Like, as a teacher, there's people who do this. There's different companies who rap, but the beats are whack, the flows aren't good. And it's something to use, but it's not something that really catches or hooks the kids long term. And that's really what you want. You want them to feel it. And so I was able to pay for good production and meet some people in the industry to make some beats and some music that actually sounds sonically good for the kids. And that's when I realized, for the African American History album, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to make a Black History album because there's nothing in this entire country that teachers have consistently for Black history. That's why we always get taught. I said, all we ever teach our kids is slavery and Dr. King, because that's what teachers have. That's their go-to, especially if they're not Black, right? They go to what they've been taught or what they think are important times in history. You were a slave, and then, you know, Dr. King cured racism.
Well, I got a question. Like, what is your idea of our freedom, in a sense, like compared to what we have now or what we don't have, or what we don't have?
Are you asking specifically how were we, like, pre-segregation, or are you talking about pre-slavery?
Well,
slavery.
Well, I'm saying both, in a sense, because when you have pre-segregation, that's when you know that, you know, Blacks were slaves. You got Blacks were in this specific category, where now we're in a country where a lot of the perception is, hey, we're all free. Everybody has the same opportunity. Look, you're a principal, you're, you know, a vice principal in a school right now. Back before then, there wasn't that. You know, black teachers could not do that. We couldn't have Black principals. So if that's not freedom, then what is freedom?
That's a great question. I roll like this. So I was saying I got to look at it as a duality, because I'm a Black American, right? So it's like, I'm not trying to separate from this country, right? I'm trying to make sure I increase the truth of this country and actually make this country live up to what it promises for all its citizens, right? And so when I look at segregation, I think desegregating the schools was bad for Black people, but good for America, right? I say that because at that point, it starts to live true to the values that all men are created equal. And everybody has these inalienable rights.
Mm-hmm.
But as African Americans or Black folks in this country, I look at all the things we did whilst segregation. I mean, if you think about, like, look at the Harlem Renaissance, for instance, right? This is the 20s in New York. You have, it's 60 years after we are free, from slavery. In only 60 years, all the things we've accomplished in the Harlem Renaissance, the arts, dance, we shaped the world, right? We every France, Europe, they're trying to be like the new Negroes, and they're trying to emulate the things we do. And so I just look at how much we grew as a people within that time. I think if we were more self-sufficient and relied more upon ourselves, we would be more successful as a community now.
Right.
Look at Black Wall Street, about cryptocurrency, like the dollar and the money circulating within the community.
Right.
That happened. And yes, it was destroyed by the Ku Klux Klan and people who hated us.
Right.
Yet and still, the fact that it was able to happen. Now, that destruction that happened by the Ku Klux Klan, right? Like that was overt racism. When you have desegregation, now the overt racism becomes more subverted within like the political parties.
Right.
You have administrations. You think of the Southern Doctrine, where Reagan's political advisor at the time, I think it was Atwater, he actually had a plan. He said, don't call them niggers anymore. Instead, call it, los, what do you say? He tied around the money aspect, make it
lower
sound
class.
Like, yes. And so therefore, at that point, people aren't thinking about, it's a black versus white thing. It's like rich versus poor. And so it only affects Black people ultimately, the policies that are put in place.
Right.
I think that subverted racism is far more impactful than overt racism, because you have this similar idea, they're free. The masses who don't see it, the rest of the Americans who aren't necessarily racist, like they're like, we're free. Black people are free. You guys have all the rights, but they don't really see all the tactics underneath that have prevented us and prohibited us from true equality and growth like everyone else.
Right, right. And I think so that would be, the purpose of, your messages, to actually bring it to that understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Because with that understanding, that's truth, number one, but then that would be your true equality, that everyone is, under the perception or idea that we are already under.
Now, a person who is educated, right, or who has some sort of conscious element about themselves about race and says, I have implicit bias, but obviously she's not stealing. I'm not going to say anything, right? It's normal to have implicit bias, but to fight it, that's what's important. And that's how you become change agents, right? So I think what's happening now is that subverted racism, with this Trump administration specifically, it's now a lot more overt racism that people see. And it's forcing a lot of people of color, which I love, to band together again, to become more cultural. It's forcing a lot of white allies, right, to really analyze their implicit bias and to look at culture. And I think with this generation specifically, right, this youth, they have within them the real power to make America great, because they can actually change it. I feel like a lot more are away from these old racist ways, or because it's so overt now again, they're banding against it again. I see a new revolution happening with this new generation, a new joining together.
Yes, I mean, and I definitely see that it's different from the past. Like it's a difference,
I think that's why this album, I say it's not just for Black people, and that's my primary target. Don't get it wrong. I want us to know about our greatness and our history. But I say it's for all Americans, because, God, if you really say you're American, then understanding the contributions of all Americans, right, regardless of culture, creed, or gender, right, if you understand like their contributions, it really helps to kind of dilute the pool of bigotry and hate that ignorance actually develops, And so that's why this album, to me, is an important movement.
I'm glad you mentioned that about the album, being for all Americans. Yes, this is Black History album. Yes, this is Black empowerment at its best.
Mm-hmm.
But, the message is for all to learn from, that we all can learn, and I wanted to ask, is there any like backlash, that you receive? you know, yeah, like what type of backlash do you receive for being predominantly targeting the black community?
I mean, you see it on the internet comments. I mean, trolls, as they call them. You know, oh, so and so didn't really invent peanut. George Washington Carver didn't really invent peanut butter. He invented this, and you know, this is anti-white, and Gerald Lawson didn't really invent the video game console. You know, the first person was this. I'm like, dude, Gerald Lawson invented the first removable cartridge video game console that we actually model, like PS4, removable cartridge, Atari. Like, that is what I'm saying. Now, am I going to rhyme Jerry Lawson invented the first video game console with a removable? It doesn't flow with the line. So, of course, it's going to sound a little different. But if your intent automatically is to look at the negative in something so positive, right, then what is wrong with you, truthfully? Yes. Like, you have so much hate or so much blindness, wool over your eyes, that you're not really seeing the positivity within this song. It's saying black made that. It didn't say white didn't make this. That's not what the song is called. The song is not called white people can't do this. It's not called black people do things better than whites. It says black made that. That's it. Like, we invented this.
And they also must have missed the fact that you do point out that Thomas Edison, you know, started a light bulb.
That's it.
You know, but it was improved. It was improved by the filament. You said that in the song.
Yes, I said that. So I'm like, bro, you guys are tripping. Like, you know, in some of the songs, like, okay, for instance, on the song called Uprising, which I felt was very important, that one, if you look at the album structure, I have about 3 songs talking about, you know, us in Africa, and only really 1 song about the Middle Passage, 1 song about the Underground Railroad, and then the other slavery song is really about slave uprisings, right? And I felt that important that I talk less about slavery than I do about our kings and queens and how we were, you know, developed in Africa, because their history is important as well. Right. And on the song Uprising, I talk about killing whites with their hands up, screaming, "Don't shoot," which is, if you think that that's tying towards the Mike Brown, I'm like, you know, we choked Massa out. He said he couldn't breathe. That's tying into Eric Garner. But then on the 3rd verse, I say, you can't celebrate, or you can't hate all of this and celebrate Spartacus. See, Spartacus was a slave too. He was white though. So in history, we have movies about Spartacus. We had a whole Netflix TV, or the HBO TV show, Showtime TV show about Spartacus. And we have movies, you know, about Spartacus and Ben-Hur. They were slaves too, right? So what's the difference?
Rebelling, breaking through, going to war for their people.
Exactly. And the only difference is the people I'm mentioning were black, right? So problem with me talking, not praising, but talking and telling exactly what happened in this historical thing. If you celebrate another person who's white, that doesn't make sense. And if you do, then it shows that your intentions are all wrong. Yes. Right. Yes. I even have a song called Unity on the album. Mm-hmm. Right. I talk about the Underground Railroad, but I have to give homage to the allies, even today. Like, there are people who are white. I have a student the other day. He's like, yo, Griot B, how can I like help? Because I knew about 13th, the documentary. And I just feel like when I try to tell people, because I'm white, like I try to tell black people, like, man, you don't know what it's like to be black. And I said, you're 100% right. I feel like what you need to do is to try to educate fellow white people, because that's where you can really exert your power as a young man who knows some things. And I have a song called Unity, which is talking about, you know, William Lloyd Garrison, and talking about all these abolitionists who sacrificed to help a lot of the slaves become free, right? Wow. And so it's not an anti-American album. It's really acknowledging that these are things that happened in history, and we must really learn about them to actually start to go against what we've been taught. Because if all you're taught is slavery and Dr. King, that black people were slaves, and then black people were non-violent fighters, right? And we got beat, and then, the government gave us freedom again. We were enslaved, Lincoln freed us. We got beat, and then the government freed us again. What do you really know about black people? Can you really see us as not victims? Can you really see black folks as the creative powers, or are you only going to see the contributions in athletics and entertainment? And that's why it's so important to me and to this country, I believe.
As a matter of fact, I gotta give the family just a snippet, just a quick snippet.
bitch like mine, some Musa. To homie, she my shooter. I keep hammers on my Amazons. Stay strapped like an ace bandage on. Ay, she got a rifle pointed at you. Long barrel sweeper that broom. Red dye that you been through.
I'll blast you to Timbuktu.
Ay, that's why I keep on my books, though. Blue eyes wanna take a look, no.
Hola.